Welcome to The Worthy Woman, a podcast for the intuitive, ambitious woman who's ready to regulate her nervous system, reconnect with her body, and rise to the next level of success, health, and purpose. I'm your host, Jo, manual osteopath, holistic coach, and nervous system guide, here to walk with you as you heal from the inside out and create a life and a business that actually feels good. On this podcast, we explore the connection between your body, emotions, subconscious patterns, and your ability to lead, create, and live from your worth. Let's get into today's episode. Okay, welcome back to another podcast episode on The Worthy Woman. My name is Johanna, and I am super excited to dive into this topic today. I've been kind of sitting with this for, a week or so, and I actually had my own experience that kind of ties into this that made me really want to do this podcast episode. So it was already kind of an idea, and I was thinking about it. And basically we're talking about how to be delusional as fuck about your business, your money goals, all that good kind of stuff. So this is something I struggled with for a very long time. And we'll kind of dive into that. But basically when I came back from my retreat, I had literally actually said to my mom when I was talking to her about my retreat, I was like, almost like mystified a little bit of like how magical life really starts to feel. And like when you start working with your subconscious mind, energy, your beliefs, like I read a lot of fantasy books and it makes me feel like I could be one of those characters. And that sounds absolutely delusional. But what I love about it is that it's like you have so much power, like we have so much power to shift and change our life. And like, we don't really tap into that. Like, I feel like a lot of us, and we're taught to believe this, that like, the world is so mundane and like, that's crazy to think that you have that much power and that you can just shift and change. And it's not that these things don't come with work, because they absolutely do, which we're going to talk about. But, I just like, I was just like, wow, like I can shift my own energy. I can help other people shift and have their breakthroughs. Like I can literally believe anything I want to believe and make it true. Like just that in itself is crazy to me. And it sounds a little crazy. And it's like, it's when you do this work without bypassing the shadow aspects, that's when it really becomes powerful, right? And we want to believe that the world is magic, but we also don't want to bypass, the reality still of situations, and also, what it means to like live in this 3D world. Okay. So this episode is very different than my usual ones, but I am like, this is the part of me that like I'm working on showing up more with in my content and my podcast and all these types of things, because I'm just like, I love this shit. I just think it's so cool. And so basically it's like when you start doing this work, you start to realize how much of what you experience isn't actually very random, right? It's filtered through what you expect to see or hear or have, what feels safe for you, and what you believe is actually possible for you, right? And we're going to walk through what being delusional actually means, because I struggled with like the embodiment piece for so long. And I think I've mentioned this on previous episodes, but it's like I struggled with the embodiment piece because I was like, I don't know how to like integrate it. I don't know how to like make it real. I don't like the things I'm thinking of and the goals I'm thinking of seem so far off that like it feels fucking dumb. Like it feels so dumb to think of these things, because you're like, well, that's not my reality. But the crazy part, and when you think of this perception, is everything that you have up until this point, the business clients, the results in your business, the money you make, right up until this point, that's all based on the past, because those are past actions that have gotten you to where you are now. But if you want to change that, you have to realize that these thoughts and these, your energy, whatever you're trying to shift, isn't serving you. And in order to create a different reality in the future, you have to shift what you're thinking right now. So it gets a little mind fucky. But being delusional doesn't mean that you just start ignoring your problems, or that you pretend like difficulties don't exist, or that you're just waiting for things to kind of like fall into your lap, although they can. It's more about choosing beliefs that are expanding you. It's acting as if like success is already there and available to you at any moment in time. It's refusing to treat your current reality as like a permanent thing that you can't fix or change, right? And it's training your nervous system to actually tolerate having more, right? So it's like expanding that capacity for more, and building up the ability to hold more. And so, again, the being delusional isn't about denying your reality, but it's refusing to let your current circumstances define what is possible for you now and in the future, right? So, when I actually just started working with my own coach around some subconscious stuff, because I've done a lot of the work myself, and I just felt like I wanted like somebody else's eyes on what's going on with me, so that it gave me more of like a streamlined process. And that's why I love coaching and stuff so much, is because it allows you to work with someone specifically who can like hear you, see you, and give you guidance, and give you maybe even like a deeper understanding. And I'm like starting to dive into all of this like subconscious mind stuff. Like I understand the basics of it, of like the principles of like what we're trying to do. But the depth of my knowledge, it's like I have more to kind of uncover, which I'm super excited to do. That's like my next little like avenue and direction that I think I'm moving in. And I already incorporate some of this into like subliminals, and the Reiki all does like subconscious shifting and changing. But again, just understanding it on a deeper level. And I feel like when it came to mindset stuff and trying to, again, become the version of myself that I was trying to be in business, or that embodiment, I lacked the understanding of like what I was even trying to do. And I think for me, that really prevented me from sticking with things, because I was like not understanding the purpose. All I was seeing was like, well, I'm doing this and nothing's shifting for me. I don't get it, basically, right? And so it's like my conscious awareness and my understanding of things was like not there. And so partially that's what I want to do in this episode, is like give you a little bit of like understanding as to why we repeat things, why we continually have to tell ourselves and course correct ourselves continually throughout the day and our week and that sort of thing. And why you have to have this level of like awareness of yourself to really be able to shift, and you have to make space for it as well. So in my call, like my own personal coaching call that I had with my coach, she was talking about the law of assumption by Neville Goddard. And if you're interested in this work, you can actually look up, he has there's a compilation, is that the word? of all his books in one Audible download thing. And it's like 14 hours, I think, almost 15 hours of content of his. And he talks all about the law of assumption. Okay. So essentially what this is like you're assuming, the law of assumption is that like it's already here. It already exists, right? So you're already assuming that the opportunities, the things you want, what you're trying to manifest or create or attract it already exists. It's already here, right? And so when it comes to our subconscious mind, a subconscious mind is like a warehouse, and it takes in all this information into this warehouse around our surroundings, what people say to us, what our parents taught us growing up, what society tells us, what our friends say, like the people we hang around, right? Like our experiences. It takes all this like information. It's very neutral. There's no charge, there's no bias to it. It just takes it in as information. It's like a library, right? And then what your conscious mind then does is, based on the information that's in the subconscious mind, your conscious mind then makes decisions, sees opportunities or no opportunities, depending on your mindset. It basically the subconscious mind gives you the filter of how you see the world. And your conscious mind is how you show up in that world, because like based on that, right? Hopefully that makes sense. So your brain is going to always filter for what it already believes, right? And that's that subconscious mind. and you're going to notice evidence that confirms those expectations. So if you believe that money is hard to make, you are going to notice things in your world that proves money is hard to make, right? And then your shifts, your behavior shifts start to happen because of that. So then you may take an action in a way that always makes it hard for you to make money, right? Like just stuff like that, right? So you start showing up in a way that, again, reinforces that belief. And then your emotions and your baseline of things are a result of that as well. So when we can start to give our brain a new filter for what it believes, right? We can give it new beliefs. We then start to notice evidence that confirms that belief, right, in our world. And then our behavior will shift because of that automatically. And then your emotional baseline around the whole thing changes, right? So if you want to show up on social media more, it's not about the action of like forcing yourself. The action comes after you already believe it and you're already like, you have the evidence that you can do it, right? It's a shift in our perception, not really a shift in our actions. The actions come as a result of this perception shift. Okay, so if you assume that nobody wants to buy your product, you're going to be hesitant in selling, and therefore you're going to get low conversions, right? If you assume that opportunities exist, you're going to show up differently, and then people are going to respond to you. So your subconscious mind is always trying to prove you right. And then when you assume something is inevitable, your energy actually becomes more calm and not frantic. And so this was something that we talked about, was like, her and I was like, this idea and this goal of like, we want the things that we're trying to manifest have like no emotional charge. It just wants to seem like the example she gave me was like Kim Kardashian. And it's like, if Kim Kardashian, like the money she makes, like how do you think she feels about that? It probably just feels normal for her, right? It doesn't feel charged. She's not necessarily lit up and excited about it. Maybe at one point she was, but her making millions and billions of dollars is her normal now, right? And that's because she's normalized that reality. She's normalized that belief. She's created that reality, and her subconscious mind has enough evidence that that is just the truth, right? And so we have to kind of like detach emotionally, even if it's excitement, right? Sometimes we think, oh, I have to get rid of this fear, but sometimes we also have to get rid of like the excitement, the charge around like, oh my gosh, if I had this, it would just be like earth shattering and life changing, right? And it's like that also can be a repellent, and also in some ways you can be like, it's earth shattering and it's life changing because it doesn't seem real, right? So what is the belief even behind that positive feeling that you might be having around the things that you want? So what we need to do is we basically, and this is what I'm working through right now, and this shit is hard. It's hard because it's like your ego is always going to try to interrupt, you know, like what's happening and like what thoughts you're trying to bring in. But we have to act as if, right? Act as if we already have it, act as if it's already here, act as if it's already coming to us, right? So we need this identity before we have evidence. And that is the hardest freaking part, I think, of this work, is that we have to identify and believe something before it even shows up. And this is where our ego loves to come in, right? Our shadows, our wounds, right? Because sometimes it takes a minute for our reality and our world to catch up. And in those moments of that pause, of that waiting and having to just show up and do the work every day, your ego's like, told you, it's not coming, you know, like giving you all these like ideas of like, well, it's not working, or like, oh, there's this bill again, and like I need money, and you know, like all these little things, right? It can. And again, we're sometimes trying to create things in maybe what feels like unrealistic timelines, even though they might not be. And so this feels uncomfortable because your nervous system prefers familiar, right? Like it's like, we know what it feels like to, as much as it sucks to have all these bills and struggling financially, we know this, you know, it's like the devil you know versus the devil you don't know, right? And so your ego is really just, your ego and your nervous system are one and the same, but they're like, it's like trying to keep you safe. It's like, no, don't try to change this because like we don't really know. It could get worse, like that's essentially what happens. And your body just doesn't trust this new reality yet. And so this is where having things that help you regulate your nervous system, like sometimes just like giving yourself affirmations isn't enough. You need the physical shift with it. You need the nervous system tools. You need to like maybe actually lay down and do like a meditation or some sort of like energy work or that sort of thing to kind of like have the physical shift. Because if you're just trying to feed yourself like affirmations and you're stressed the fuck out, it's going to feel like you're faking it, and it's not going to feel good. Like, and it's going to feel weird, and you're not going to stick with it, and it's going to be bizarre, So like, I don't think affirmations is like the best place for people to start. I think if you want to do affirmations, I would do subliminals instead, because they bypass the conscious mind. So basically it's trying to keep us safe, right? And so I'm going to give you some examples of like ways this could show up or how you could act as if, even if you don't have the evidence in your current reality. Okay. So in money, for example, you might want to make decisions from sufficiency and not from panic. So you believe that you have enough and you're not panicking when you're making decisions financially or about things in your life, right? Maybe you're not obsessively checking your numbers, or you're not avoiding checking your numbers, right? And you're trusting that your income can grow. So trusting that there's always more, right? When it comes to business, this is like showing up even before you get the results. So it's like posting on social media. Let's say if this is like your marketing strategy and you're going to post on Instagram, you're posting even though you maybe haven't made a sale, right? You're also speaking as someone who expects to see growth, right? So again, that belief of like, I know I can grow. I know I can make money doing this. I know I can have growth in my business, whatever. And investing yourself before the proof. And I feel like that doesn't mean that you have to spend money, but investing yourself before there's proof is like, to me, that means like investing in yourself from a nervous system perspective, from a health perspective, from a self-care perspective, like really just like putting yourself first and investing in what you need, whatever that means, right? And so if you want a business that has like a lot of time freedom and space to grow and do this hobby and cook that food or whatever, allow yourself to create a schedule already that has those things in it so that you're still investing in yourself and your own, goals and desires and dreams and hobbies and self-care and the way you want to show up for yourself before you have the proof. It's kind of like if you wanted to like lose a bunch of weight, you got to go to the gym and keep showing up every day and investing in it before you see the weight loss results, right? Like it doesn't work. You don't lose 30 pounds and then go to the gym, you got to show up in the moments along the way before you have the proof that what you're doing is even working. And it's the same with this subconscious work, this energetic work, because it can take time for our reality to show up once we've shifted the energetics. And so again, this feels hard because it's our ego, it's this pushback, and it's like, it's not resisting success. You're not trying to prevent success unless you have a block around that, but it's like more about trying to protect you from what could be different, right? Again, as much as we don't love our current situations, it's familiar and it's what we know, right? And so it's easier to stay in it than it is to shift it. And so sometimes, and this is what I'm noticing after these, last couple days, it's like you do start to question, like, is it working, right? Your subconscious work, your energetic work, you question sometimes, like, did it actually shift? And what I've noticed over the last, I don't know, eight months, we'll say, doing subliminals absolutely has helped. I do some subliminals for like money and that sort of thing, which I have some in my free community. But that has actually helped me bring things into my reality. And again, it doesn't happen necessarily right away, but like a week or 2 or 3 weeks later, things start to, like, opportunities start to come in. When I shifted my energy from when I was taking my Reiki training and starting to utilize Reiki in my everyday life, that also shifted my energy. It shifted how I showed up. It shifted my belief. I actually even had people coming up and saying, like, you know, the way in which you're showing up on your social media just feels so different. It feels so empowered. And you feel so, like, it just, the way I was showing up this last half of the year of 2025 versus the first half of the year was, like, drastically different, you know? And that is because of the subconscious work that I've done, the energetic work, and working with my nervous system, right? And this work is very powerful, but it's sometimes invisible. And when you're rewiring the things that you are associating yourself with, like beliefs, you are also expanding your tolerance for success. You're reducing this internal conflict and struggle with things, because you're shifting and you're changing your energetic baseline, right? Like, what you, again, it's like your new normal is what you're essentially trying to create. And so from the outside, it can look like you're maybe not really doing anything or nothing's happening, but internally, all this stuff is reorganizing. And then once it reorganizes, then you start to attract and see the opportunities around you. I don't even know if we fully attract it. I think it's a combination of things. I feel like we attract it in the sense of, like, it comes closer into our awareness, but it's like it was already there. It was the opportunity, the things, they already existed. It's just that now you come across it or you see it. It's like a social media post. It's like that person's Instagram's been there the whole time, right? But then you just happen to stumble across one of their videos or their posts, right? Well, that comes into your awareness, but it's been there probably for years, right? So it's kind of like that. So once you start to see things start to shift in your reality, that's where you're like, holy shit, this stuff actually does work. And that's what I've had over these last few months doing my own work. And then I'm continuing to do this work a little bit deeper with my coach. And you shift the assumption of what you believe to be true, right? You're already more calm and you're more open to receive those things. You start to then behave a little bit differently, right? Because your beliefs are shifting. Then people are responding differently. Opportunities are responding differently. Opportunities become visible, right? And then your brain goes, see, this is real. And then it just becomes your reality because you see it all the time and you've seen it before. And so the more it's like repetition, because if you can hold that belief, the more that these things will reinforce that that is true. And then your whole reality starts to shift, right? And so it's not just like instant miracles, but it's very like it's compounding energy over time. And again, if we think of it as like we're adjusting our baseline, I feel like that makes it seem less kind of magical. Not that it's not magical, because it totally is. What I love about the magic is that it feels like you have so much power, right? When I think of somebody who is like a magician, or somebody in my fantasy books who has like, they're a witch and they've got all these powers, it makes it, that's what powers and magical things and gifts are, is power, right? It gives you, and it's how you're going to use that power. And I just think that like this work makes you feel like things are a game and it's fun and it's whatever, and you get to really play in your reality. A lot of us are afraid to play with our reality though, right? And so if you do treat your business and your life like a game, you get to become more like experimental and less afraid of like making little mistakes, right? Like we get to kind of like, again, play and start small, right? Like don't go crazy. But over time, this will like reduce some of the pressure around things, and you'll be more creative, and you won't have so much shame around failing because you'll see it as like an opportunity to kind of just like shift things, right? And over time, you're going to be more and more resilient. So we really want to use subconscious rewiring tools to help create new neural pathways and bypass like subliminals. Like I said before, like they bypass the conscious mind. And so that's usually where we see the most resistance, right? That's where we're like, oh, but is this really working? You know, that's your conscious mind. And that's why I use subliminals and subconscious work in my own life and with my clients, right? So if you want to play around with some subliminals, I do have some on my YouTube channel, but they're also in my, I have some in my free community, The Embodied Entrepreneur, excuse me. And specifically in the free community, there is one for showing up online with ease. So if you're struggling with showing up on content, being consistent, feeling confident in showing up online, that'll be a great one for you to utilize. And then if you want to work a little bit deeper, I do also have my business energetic breakthrough bundle, which is 3 sessions over 6 weeks. And we work deeper into, okay, what's the identity? What's the subconscious work that needs to be done? What's the shift that needs to happen? And then we can start to do the energetics. So I incorporate my Reiki into that, into each session. So we shift the energetics after identifying what's going on. And then I give you some things that you can start to look at, think of, while you're in between the sessions, right? So there's typically about like 2 or 3 weeks kind of between. So yeah, if you're interested in that, all that stuff will be linked down below. And yeah, I feel like, I don't know, maybe being delusional isn't about believing impossible things. Maybe it's about finally allowing ourselves to actually believe that more is possible for us than like our past has shown, I think it's just like believing that there's options, believing that there's that, and that believing again, like we have the power and we have the control to change our current reality. And yeah, if you liked this episode, let me know. You can reach out to me on Instagram or comment down below on YouTube. Let me know if you like this, if you want to dive more into this. And yeah, I just can't wait to dive further into this. I'm really excited. I can't wait to dive in more into the law of assumption and just like really understand the nitty-gritty of things. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for being here. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.